Alright, welcome back to Be Mother Reviews, everybody. And today we've got from Sideshow Collectibles the time-traveling mutant known as Cable. Now, Cable is an early 90s character. He's been around almost exactly 30 years, and he's kind of survived that test of time. He remains extremely popular to this day. He's got an interesting story about him, kind of a confusing backstory. So we're going to get into that a little bit. Then I'm going to tell you if you need this statue in your collection. We're going to talk sculpt and design, we're going to talk paint and production quality. So let's get into the review right now. Alright, so Cable debuted way back in 1990 in New Mutants number 87. And at the time, he was a very mysterious character. He was a telekinetic and telepathic mutant who had traveled back in time from the future, and not much was known about his past. But as you know, anytime time travel is involved in a story, things get a little bit messy. And Cable's origin story was seemingly pretty complicated even before he was ever conceived. Now, it was later revealed that his real name is Nathan Summers, and that of course makes his father one Scott Summers, better known as Cyclops, and his mother is Madeline Pryor. Now, that's where things get a little bit interesting for him, because Madeline Pryor, as we know now, is a clone of Jean Grey. And anytime you hear the word clone and you're talking about X-Men, you got to think of the villain, Mr. Sinister. And yes, he's got his fingerprints sort of all over the origin of Cable. Now, it had been foretold that the child of Cyclops and Jean Grey was going to go on to become this extremely powerful mutant, and it was going to be the one to overthrow Apocalypse in the future. Now, the problem with that story at the time, Jean Grey was thought to be dead, so Mr. Sinister creates this clone, sends her out to seduce Cyclops and have his child, and everything's going splendid until she goes absolutely crazy, turns into the Goblin Queen, and then tries to sacrifice her child to open a portal to hell. And then on top of that, Apocalypse infected Nathan as a baby with the Techno-Organic virus. Now, this virus consumes organic tissue and turns it into this robotic cybernetic form until it completely consumes its host and basically creates this robotic zombie-like figure. And there's no known cure for this virus, so what they do is they take Nathan and send him off to the future where he will seemingly be safe. Now, it's in the future where he learns to use his telekinetic abilities to hold the virus at bay, and he also becomes sort of this supreme fighting machine, this enhanced super soldier of the future. And then he travels back in time as an older man, and that's where we first meet him, and this is the character you see here. This is the guy that we've come to know and love. And I mentioned he's using a good chunk of his power resources to hold this virus at bay. Now, the virus does give him some enhanced abilities. It gives him enhanced strength here in his left arm. It gives him enhanced vision in his left eye. He's able to see in different light spectrums, and he's also able to interface with technology and hack computers and things like that. Now, he makes up for that reduced ability with guns, big ones. And you can see the huge gun he's got in his hand here. He's seemingly always has this massive arsenal of weapons at his disposal. On top of that, he's also a very accomplished physical hand-to-hand fighter. He can go toe-to-toe with just about anybody in the Marvel Universe. Now, occasionally he's allowed to use his full power set, and when he is, he's absolutely one of the most powerful mutants around. And I always think of the Cable and Deadpool series. It's one of my favorites of all time. Highly, highly recommend it. And early on in that series, he goes toe-to-toe with one of the most powerful characters ever created in the Marvel Universe, and that's, of course, the Silver Surfer. So for this battle, picture in your head that fight between Superman and Zod from the Man of Steel, where they're flying through buildings and basically destroying everything around them. Well, that's basically what happens in this fight, but the difference is, while they're fighting, Cable's using his telekinetic abilities to rebuild all the damage around them in real time. And then he goes on to break the indestructible board of the Surfer with his powers. Now, he eventually goes on to lose the fight, but that alone should tell you just how powerful he can be. It's extreme. So this statue actually has a lot of history to live up to, 30 years to be exact of history. So can it do it? Well, we're going to get into this statue. We're going to talk sculpt and design next. All right, this statue was sculpted by Martin Canali, and now you probably recognize that name because he's got a pretty impressive portfolio with Sideshow Collectibles, and two pieces that really always jump to mind for me are Lobo and Gladiator Hulk. And the common trait between those two characters, they're big, they're bulky, they're muscular, and I think that's really an area where he excels, and Cable definitely fits that bill. I mean, this guy's supposed to be 6'8", 350 pounds of pure muscle, and you can see it here. I mean, he's got rippling muscles through both arms, the abs popping in his chest, his legs look like tree trunks. I mean, this is one big, bad dude. You don't want to mess with this guy. I love the portrait, and it's very Rob Liefeld look to it, very 90s with the widow's peak hairstyle, and he's very serious and focused. It's an excellent portrait. Tons of detail on this statue too. The blue areas of his suit are very subtly textured, and then the accents, the straps, the pads, the boots and things have a more heavy texture to them, and I like that mix. I think it looks really, really good. There's battle damage all around his suit with nicks and scratches and gashes all over the place. This guy's been through a war, you can tell just by looking at him. And you know, the base sort of sets that scene as well. It looks like he's standing in the middle of a war zone. And what's interesting about this base is you've got the Cerebro helmet here, and you've got the Wolverine mask here. And that's interesting because, you know, in the past, Marvel hasn't allowed the hero pieces to be all over the base like that. But they look pretty cool here. Also, you got the sign from the Xavier School cut in half, and man, that poor school seems to get demolished on a daily basis, doesn't it? So really nice sculpt here. He's done a tremendous job. Now, design-wise, I mean, Cable's a character that, I don't know, there's not really a particular costume or look that really comes to mind for him. It's not like Spider-Man or Wolverine where you have a very set costume style. He's had a number of different looks over the years. It seems like every series he's in, he's got a new costume to go with it. Now, this design is kind of a mashup of several different eras for the character. Now, you've got the yellow and blue X-Men suit. That's sort of his mid-90s look with this crisscross strap and the red X's on his chest. And then you've got the big shoulder pads, and that's sort of more of his origin look, his early X-Force days where he had these huge pads on all the time. And then you got the cloak here, and that's sort of more 2000s look. He started wearing the cloak, I believe, in the second Cable series, which came out around 2008. So I mentioned this statue has a lot of history to live up to, and I really like that they've borrowed elements from throughout the history for the character. And I think they've come up with a really good design that really encompasses everything this character is about. So design-wise, sculpt-wise, I think this statue is awesome. Alright, so earlier I mentioned that Cable has the ability to travel through time, but he also has a device that allows him to teleport, or body slide as he calls it. And that's what these blue portals are in the back of the piece. They're sort of meant to represent him emerging through a portal onto the battlefield. I think it does a pretty good job of mimicking that ability, but that does lead us to some of the switch out display options for this piece. If you get the exclusive, you get the little portal in the back with the Deadpool arm popping through, and he's dropping down a little Deadpool stuffy there, and it's got a necklace around it, that little half heart shape that says best on it. So those two characters appeared in the same series, New Mutants, around the same time, and since then have kind of been really tightly linked together. They've developed this sort of bromance, friendship in a way, and that's sort of a nod to those two characters being linked like that. So if you don't like that, or if you get the collector edition, you can take that right off, and it just connects with a magnet, and it comes in two pieces, the hand and the arm, like that. So we'll set those aside, and you can go with just this empty portal if you like. So there you go, without the Deadpool arm. Or if you really don't like the portal, you can take it completely off, and they gave you this empty brick that you can just use to plug that hole. Now, I know some people really don't like the portal look, so you can take the other ones off. They are removable. They just connect to the back with magnets. So I'll take them both off for you here. like that. Now, unfortunately, there is nothing to plug the holes at the back here in his foot and in the back of the gun, but since you're going to display it like this, you're never going to see those holes. So it is displayable completely with no portals if you choose to do it that way. Personally, I feel that the gun looks a little bit incomplete without the portal. It looks like there's a piece missing off the back end, but that's just my opinion. So I'm probably going to keep the portals on for that reason, but I think it's totally displayable without the portals if that's what you choose. All right, let's talk paint on this statue, and we're going to start off with the base. And you can see it's pretty generic colors. He's just standing atop a pile of dirt and rubble here, so not a lot of color, but they have given these bricks or paving stones a little bit of a brownish red finish to help them stand out. The sign has a bit of a golden finish to it, and you can see the molten bright colors on the side where it's been freshly cut. So nice finish on the base, really, overall. The portals are sort of a translucent blue material, but you can see in the center they've darkened it up, and then there's a bit of a white swirl in there that just gives them a little bit of sense of motion there. So I like how they finished the portals. Cable himself, overall, he looks really good. The metallic finish on the arm actually turned out really nice. Bit of a purpley hue there in some areas. The suit, nice clean lines. He's got lots of straps and things, but they've done a nice job painting that. There's no colors where they shouldn't be there. But Cable, he's a soldier, right? So he should look like he's been to war. And they've done a nice job adding the battle damage to this piece. You can see the scuffs and scratches and nicks and everything, on the shin guards and the shoulder pads, on the X's here, on the straps of the suit. So nice job there. He looks battle worn. The skin tones look very nice. He's got a bit of a 5 o'clock shadow on that portrait. You can see a distinct difference in color there between the beard area and the rest of his face. I think that looks pretty cool. The yellow glowing cybernetic eye, his silver mane of hair. The scar stands out over his right eye as well. So really nice job on Cable overall. I'm pretty pleased with it. If I could nitpick one tiny area there, I would say the colors could be a little bit more vibrant. When you place this statue up against others, the colors look a tad faded or dull, but really, that's a minor complaint. The one area where this statue I think could have improved paint-wise is the guns. They've given a little bit of battle damage to it, but overall it's really just a flat gunmetal finish. Pretty safe way to finish it. It looks okay, but I would have liked to see some detailing to help bring out this awesome sculpt on both guns. Other than that, I think the paint is really nice. Now, there is some mixed media on this statue with the cape. There is a wire running around all the edges and then another one through the middle here to help you pose it so it's completely posable. Now, the best cape I've seen for posability is the Magneto Maquette. It had these flat metal strips that I felt really enhanced the posability on that cape. These are thin, round wires, which I don't like as much, but I think I've got it to a place where I really like the look of it. So you just got to play around with it until you do. There is some weathering, some mud stains around the edges of the cape. You can see some of the edges are also frayed as well, which is pretty cool. The cape is completely removable. It just sits loose around his neck there. So you can take it off and it doesn't leave behind any holes or magnets or anything like that. So you can completely display it with or without the cape as you choose. So overall, I think the statue, the paint, and the mixed media really work well, and I think they did a fantastic job. All right, let's talk some production quality on this statue. There's really not a lot I can tell you about it because I think it just turned out great. You're going to want to set aside a decent amount of time to unbox this guy because there's lots of extra bits of foam and they wrapped up all the pieces to help make sure that it gets to you without being damaged during shipment. So nice job by Sideshow there. Other than that, the assembly is pretty straightforward. There's a big metal peg under his right foot, so you just slot him down onto the base, and then all the arms and the head and accessories attached with magnets. They're nice, sturdy feeling magnets, and I think they've done a great job of hiding all the seams, so you don't see any seams anywhere. There's no loose fitting parts or anything to worry about. So overall, it's just a nice looking piece. As you put it together, you're going to really feel like this is a quality statue, and that's really all you can ask for with any statue. So I think Sideshow did a fantastic job with this one. Alright, it's time to wrap up this review here. We got Cable from Sideshow Collectibles, and as I said, he's been around for 30 years now, and that makes me feel old as I say that because I still couldn't think of Cable as one of the newer X-Men characters, but really over that time, he's established himself as an essential character of the X-Men mythos, and I think Sideshow really represents him well with this piece. As I said, they've sort of blended several different eras of his costumes into one piece. You got the blue and yellow costume, the big shoulder pads, and the flowing cloak here as well. He's big and he's bulky. I mean, Cable's a big dude, and they've done a really nice job giving you that sense of size. I love the cybernetic elements. The arm is perfectly done here. You got the glowing yellow cybernetic eye as well. You get the little hint at the bromance with Deadpool if you get the exclusive version. You get the teleportation portals. So they've given you a good sense of his abilities here as well. This statue really turned out great. The paint job is solid. The mixed media works for this piece, and it feels good as you're putting it together. And that's really all you can ask for. I think Sideshow has done a tremendous job with this piece. So if you need a Cable, you got to look into this one here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Stay tuned to the channel because there's always going to be more reviews coming, and we'll talk to you guys soon.